In North America, an existing home is bought and sold every 5 seconds. And although the modern concept of home ownership has evolved, there has been one profession at the center of it: the real estate agent. Since the early 20th century, organized real estate has helped people make their dreams come true by working with them to find a home. Dreams were realized, families grew, and the cities flourished. COVID-19. A global pandemic. Borders closed, commerce abruptly stopped, our way of life came screeching to a halt. Millions of lives lost, fear permeating the world. Life as we know it had changed. But what had really changed? Was any of that change good? How would this change impact the North American dream? How would this impact you?
So I'm going to ask this a bit more specifically. Where are you seeing society experience the most change?
Well, that's a great question. Where is society potentially seeing the most change? I will say right now with the pandemic, that was a real eye-opener. We haven't had a crisis like that since the wars, I suppose, where the entire world was embattled in this war with an invisible person or invisible thing. I think we are in that state of mind now of having to consider what's important. And what's important, I think, is people.
I mean, it's sort of obvious, right? So I guess I should give the easy answer in terms of where I'm seeing the most change. Coronavirus, COVID, right? I mean, and how everybody as a society, as a species, basically, has had to confront that over the past year or so.
So, as you know, in March, I think it was March 13th last year, FCT sent all of their employees home. And we always had the capability. We had created flexibility with our workforce. We're over around 1,000 people strong, but it was quite a change when all of a sudden everybody went home.
For the really first time in our modern history, we've been placed into a circumstance where we now have a new shared reality over the last 12 months. This shared reality of being part of a global pandemic and having to react to this particular situation that's been thrust upon us. So regardless of where you are in the world, in your own little society, we've had this commonality that now binds us all together.
I think we're seeing the most change right now as a society. I think there's a lot of things that people are reckoning with that the pandemic is accelerating and is shining lights on. So there's a lot of questions around affordability, around accessibility, about racial justice, about the way that women and others are in the workforce. So the pandemic has really interrupted all of our lives. And I think that it's bubbled up questions that we've been wrestling with for a long time.
We have pretended that there is something called a work-life balance, meaning that work is this bucket, life is this bucket, right? COVID-19, and also here's your work personality, this is your work persona, this is your work everything, and this is your home personality, and this is your home persona. And what COVID-19 has done, and I don't know even if this is close as far as what you thought was interesting to talk about, but I appreciate it, is now there's this intersection between the two. Right, so we're over fighting this work-life balance idea, and now it's work-life integration.
Where are we experiencing the most change? I think change is prolific through society. I think right now where we are seeing the most change is in the shift of how people are viewing their home-life balance and where they prioritize, how they work, where they work versus how they're at home and when they're at home. So COVID's really given us this beautiful opportunity to reimagine space and time that we have. And I think what's so exciting is that technology is powering a lot of how people can experience their world in, a bit more of a full way. So, the whole work from home component, people are able to work from home more easily now, which allows them to now experience their home in a different way, which means they are more willing to embrace technology into their day-to-day.
COVID-19 has shifted the way we live, the way we work, the way we dream. It has left no one untouched. The way we buy and sell houses just isn't the same. It has changed everything.
Where do we see the most change in the real estate industry? So I think the real estate industry, is really experiencing an acceleration of change first and foremost. So there has been a lot of innovation kind of on the cusp and in the pipeline for, the last decade. And so first and foremost, we're seeing acceleration in things like how people are experiencing the buy process. So virtual tours, their agent taking them through that process a lot more remotely, even through the remote notarization and completion of the transaction. A lot of that's happening a lot more efficiently through technology. But I think the other areas where we're seeing change in real estate are, again, how people are experiencing their space.
In our industry, I think the most change will come from people understanding that there are better ways to do what we're doing now. So if we can pivot to the concept of innovation being beyond, just simply monetizing data, if we can get beyond that and start thinking about what is the real innovation, and some of the stuff that we're focusing on is exactly that. So I think the most change will be part of how we actually proceed with making the experience better for the consumer and the realtor, and making it more secure and all those good things. So I believe most change will come in the process.
Well, I think first and foremost, the whole concept of in-person meetings, whether they be open houses, whether they be closing of real estate transactions, whether they be taking a mortgage application, fulfilling a mortgage transaction, execution of a listing agreement, the actual provision of even an agreement of purchase and sale. All of these fundamentals have changed. And while there was some dabbling beforehand to move to a more digitized and virtual environment, it really escalated in March last year. And so for our business, on the real estate side, we have seen a significant shift to mobile, to digital execution of documents. On our lender business, our lawyer business, virtual closings have become the norm now. People don't necessarily want to come together and meet in person.
Number one, I'm seeing a considerable amount of change in terms of the practice of transacting real estate, both on the residential level as well as on the commercial level. And this change is being brought about by new demands from consumers of real estate, whether those consumers are individual owner occupants or whether those consumers are institutional buyers, businesses, investors, etc. The dynamics of the transaction are relatively straightforward. You sell me your property and now I own your property, or I sell my property to you and now you own my property. It's the specifics of the transaction that have really encountered heavy amounts of modification over this last year.
We're seeing change everywhere in the real estate industry. In the residential side, people were locked at home all of a sudden, and so people had to upgrade the way that they interact with their residents, the way they collect rent, the way they communicate, the way they book inspections and everything in between.
And so, what's changed for them is obviously, again, the need to go more virtual, right? So for example, again, since COVID, we have this new open ecosystem basically, which gives us an ability to be highly agile in terms of swapping in or out content or swapping in or out best of breed solutions or, partners or vendors even that come into it. So I just saw the statistics the other day, like since March of last year, our learning group, for example, created something like 20 new courses to help agents and brokers try to figure out how to continue to succeed in this, when you're quarantined, how do you build your business? How do you do all those sorts of things? And over 200,000 agents have benefited from that content.
One thing that I'm starting to notice finally, though, is this real notion of full service in the brokerage industry. What do I mean by that? Very often brokerages say we're full service, full service, full service. what's full service? Putting a listing together and putting it on the MLS? No, it has to extend beyond that. Meaning that not only does the realtor, put it up on the listing, but they also do post-close transaction and post-close support. They help you move in, they help you move out. They make sure the place is nicely painted. They help manage the trades and the move-in, for example. There's more of the agent being your concierge around the entire home buying and selling experience that extends beyond just put it up on MLS, get the document signed, off you go.
The second big degree of change that I'm seeing, or the most rapid degree of change that I'm seeing within the real estate ecosystem, is this construct of applying technological methods to impact the actual financial viability of the asset itself. What do I mean by that? If I'm a homeowner, for instance, and I only have a certain level of buying power, that buying power is based on certain characteristics like my income, my credit score, or my underlying asset value that I currently live in, or the asset value of my target property. We're seeing massive modifications in terms of the financial products that are being presented to individuals and organizations alike that allow us to change the way that we think about equity.
COVID-19 may have changed our society, changed the way we operate, changed real estate, but change is ever present. The question is, how do you view change?
I view change as the evolution of things over time.
How do I view change? Well, I mean, change is just a reality. I mean, it was a reality prior to the pandemic, and it's just all that's happened with the pandemic is that it's been accelerated. I mean, FCT as a company has always been about change, and not necessarily always disruptive change, but sometimes change that actually makes everyone better that's involved in the processes.
How do I view change? Change, I think, is what challenges us all to move forward, right? So it's the need to actually create change or have some change in our lives, right, is sort of how I view it, right?
I love when people ask me how I view change because it brings to mind one of my favorite quotes, which is, the only thing that stays the same is that everything changes. So from my perspective, with that as kind of the guide, the North Star, I view change as progress. So from my perspective, if everything's going to change, make a change for the better.
I suppose I view it with that old adage of the only constant is change, right? The only thing that we can rely upon is change. I view it as a necessary part of doing several things. One, improving, right? It certainly does have that angle to it. As you change, you evolve, you do things, what have you, it has that element of forcing improvement. Change can also be uncomfortable, right? So how I also see it is not only something that requires improvement, but something that's uncomfortable that we have to grapple with. But invariably, and I could challenge every single person, when they had to endure change, the outcome is better. You're better for it, your life is better for it. So that's how I view change. Uncomfortable, necessary, focused on the end result, which is likely a better outcome.
I view change as an opportunity. It's one of those moments in time where you can actually, change usually comes with an idea. And so if you can get that idea to try and solve or ease a situation or create something new and creative and exciting, for me, it's one of the things that I enjoy about what I do is I'm a change agent. So as a change agent, I just see opportunity.
Change is here to stay, and with that breathes opportunity. Opportunity to grow, to learn, and to create a new way forward. In a world that is ever changing, how do you navigate and stay on top of the opportunities that change brings? Do you have a plan? a strategy, a trusted resource and partner to help you stay at the bleeding edge?
Do I have something that I would like to share? Absolutely. There's never been a better time to be in this space. And because of that, we're going to have a lot more people entering, trying to do transactions, trying to be part of this marketplace of real estate, writ large, not necessarily just in the US or North America, but globally. And that creates with it so many brilliant opportunities. What I would challenge you to do is pick your opportunity, pick your poison, fall in love with it, understand every aspect of it, figure out what you want, and then be the change that you need in order to succeed.
Change is everywhere, and it's only accelerating. You have a choice. Does change pass you by, or do you be a part of the change?
You are a finite resource, and what you have to provide to the world can be magical, but you have to choose to do it. You have to take that chance, and never before has there been a better place or platform to take that chance, to take that risk, to essentially build a network of like-minded individuals, to do something that the industry's never seen before.